What is up, guys? TEJ here, and in my hands I have what might just be PXG's best driver lineup to date, and in today's video we are going to put them to the test. So let's go. Right, guys, so these are PXG's brand new Black Ops drivers for 2024, and there's a decent chance that they are some of the best design drivers on the market right now. Now, before I get into a full-on tech spiel and the design behind these drivers, let's go over the different models and kind of talk about how they compare. So in this lineup, we have two different models. The standard Black Ops, which is going to be PXG's flagship driver model for 2024, and the one that will fit the majority of players, given the fact that it's the bigger, slightly more forgiving of the two heads. Then we also have the Tour 1. Now, this driver is going to be the more players-focused, slightly lower spinning model of the two. Now, although PXG does not have a max forgiveness or draw bias model within this lineup like we're seeing from some other OEMs in 2024, you're actually able to get this standard Black Ops up over 10k MOI by just changing up the weight configuration a little bit. Additionally, you can turn this into a slightly draw bias head by taking this heavy weight and pushing it down into the heel. Now, that being said, overall design is where these drivers start to really stand out to me, so let's kind of talk about why. First and foremost, we have both a carbon sole plate and carbon crown in these drivers, which is new from PXG, and the goal of this is to bring MOI or forgiveness up while also keeping spin low. Now, while the concept of more carbon fiber isn't new in and of itself, the trend of using more and more carbon fiber has been something that we have been seeing a lot of, especially from other OEMs like Taylormade and Callaway specifically. Now, the second thing you're going to see is this little fin sort of looking thing on the soles of these drivers, and they probably look pretty familiar to you, and it's because Taylormade has implemented a very similar feature on their drivers dating back to the original sim. Now, while PXG does not have an official name for it, Taylormade has called this an inertia generator, and the goal of this is to make the sole a little bit more aerodynamic to help you pick up club speed in the downswing for more distance. But aside from those things, what I find really interesting in these drivers is actually the new face. PXG is calling it AMF, or Advanced Material Face, where they're using a titanium that is actually thinner and yet stronger than other titaniums on the market. This allows them to get a little bit more flex out of the faces at impact, especially on off-centered strikes for more ball speed. And while I'm not here to spread any sort of rumors, from what I've heard, this is actually an extremely similar material to what Titleist is using in their drivers, the ATI material, which we know has really made them a power player in the ball speed department with the TSR products. Something I also want to add about these faces is that PXG has actually changed up the bulge and roll design of them a little bit to hopefully give you a little bit more consistency on off-centered strikes in terms of launch and spin. So having said all of that, it seems like PXG is really trying to throw the whole kitchen sink at these drivers and combine some of the top design ideas from other OEMs into their Black Ops heads, which I honestly have to say is quite smart and sounds like a recipe for some fantastic drivers. But while the design on paper sounds phenomenal, the real question is, how do these perform in a real-world scenario? And that is what we are going to find out today. So we are set up on the range with GC Quad, and we're going to gauge some baseline numbers with my current gamer Taylormade Qi10. Then we'll hit both the Black Ops and Black Ops Tour 1 drivers and see how they stack up from a looks, feel, and overall performance standpoint. It's going to be a fun test and one I have been really looking forward to ever since these arrived at my house, so let's get after it. Alrighty, guys, so the way we're going to work through this testing is we're going to start with my current gamer Taylormade Qi10 standard 9 degree set at 9 with a graphite design Tour AD DI 7TX. Then we'll move up into the standard Black Ops head, and then we'll move up into the Tour 1 head. If you go back and watch my Qi10 review, you know with those low spin heads, they tend to get a little bit on the too low spin side for me. So with the Tour 1, I actually went up into a 10.5 head, and then we can adjust as necessary. If it's a little bit too much loft, we'll go down. We'll make it work. We'll get them dialed and see how close they are to my current gamer. But nonetheless, I've been gaming the Qi10 standard for probably the last month or so now, and I love it. It's been pretty much everything I'm looking for in a driver. But looking down at this thing, I mean, I love the look of it. I love the new Infinity Crown. The navy face, I think, is better than the red face. Do I still prefer probably an all black face? Yes, but I don't mind it. I mean, the navy doesn't really bother me that much. But as far as looks go, it's really well done. Slightly bigger head than the LS model. It looks controllable, but also inviting. I feel like there is going to be a level of forgiveness in this size of head, which I do really like. So all right, little towy one, slightly pulled, a little bit bigger draw than I'd like, but in terms of numbers, really good. 167 ball, 10.5 launch, 2,500 spin, 280 carry. Nice solid start right there. That's a decent. 166, 283, 10.8, 2440. I mean, that's kind of where I live around with this driver. I may be a little bit slow today, but it's probably in that 66 to 68 ball speed range today, 24 to 2700 spin, around 10.5 launch. In terms of feel with the Qi10, maybe a little bit on the softer side. It doesn't feel like it's coming off with tons of ball speed, but very clearly it does have a nice amount of ball speed. So that one was kind of a little bit of a lower draw, not great, but like 169 ball, 9 launch, 2350 spin, 276 carry just because it launched so low. But yeah, man, I mean, this thing really, for the most part, it does what I want it to do. I mean, that is, on a day where I don't really feel like my body's super warm, to see a 69 ball is very nice to see. We'll try to go one more with this, see if we can hit one solid, and then we'll move up into the Black Ops standard model. Yeah, that was good. 169, 286, 10.3 launch, 2300 spin. I mean, what much else is there for me to say? It's just very solid. Let's go ahead and move up into the standard Black Ops model. So in these drivers, Graphite Design Tour AD GP7X. So I'm playing the TX DI in my current gamer. This is not a TX, it's a 7X. GP is a little bit of a stiffer profile than DI, so it should be pretty close. I do think that in terms of shaft, we're gonna be at a very solid spot. But nonetheless, in terms of loft, 9 degrees with the standard model here, same as we had with the standard Qi10. So taking a look down at this, a little bit of a different shape. It's a lot more elongated from the front to the back as opposed to my current gamer. To me, looks closer to Qi10 Max, maybe sort of a mesh between the standard and the Max models, maybe not quite as elongated as the Qi10 Max, but definitely you can tell there is more length from front to back. It's a little bit of a shallower face depth. In terms of the crown itself, I don't mind the crown design, but it's definitely a little on the busy side. I think it looks cool on the shelf, but when you're kind of looking down at it at address, I don't know if I'm over the moon about how much is going on. You've got graphics, you've got gloss carbon onto piano black on the front with an X. I mean, let's just be real, there's a lot going on. Sets up pretty good, definitely a little bit more upright. I think this is a 60-degree lie angle driver, so if you're maybe somebody who struggles turning the golf ball over, something a little bit more upright like this is going to kind of help you get it started more to the left. All right, right off the bat, that is a very low launch. 166, 8.6 launch, 2100 spin, 267 carry. Damn, that was a really low launch right there. Okay, that's interesting. Ball speed, same as kind of what we saw with the early shots of the Qi10. That one, a little bit of a toey snipe right there, but it actually didn't do too badly. 2000 spin is kind of the lowest I want to see when I really hit one in that high toe spot. In terms of ball speed, 167, 10.7 launch, carry, a little short just because it was so kind of snipey, but I do like the fact that it stayed above 2000 spin. I think that one of the big things that PXG actually has done in these drivers is they've kind of changed the way that the bulge and roll of the face looks like. So this one should be a little bit more consistent on high, low, heel, and toe strikes. And, you know, just looking at those numbers, for one that I would have expected to drop to maybe like 16 to 1800 spin, I do like to see that it stayed up around 2000. That is promising for sure. Kind of snipey again. 66, 10.2, 2100, 276 carry. I'd really like to see if I could just center one. But in terms of feel, I mean, it does feel really solid. You know, with a driver where out of the two models, this is going to be the one with the most weight back. The center of gravity is going to be a little bit further back. It does feel pretty hot, which is a nice thing to have. I'll be honest with you, to me it feels hotter than the standard Qi10 that I'm currently gaming. So 10 launch, 2000, 167, 278, really interesting. The thing that's important to realize is that most of PXG's tour players are actually playing this head. They're not playing the Tour 1 head, so there is something to be said. I mean, I'm not seeing this being a super high launch, high spin head like normally the more forgiving head in a lineup would be. So I think that's kind of why a lot of the Tour guys are moving into this head as opposed to the Tour 1. Just under 10 launch, again, 67, 2150 spin, 279 carry. Dang. I'm gonna actually have to bump this up a little bit in loft because I cannot get it to spin for me. And the weight in both of these heads is in the back position. So, I mean, it's in the spinniest position. All right, now we're up at 10 degrees. As we look down at this, face angle is definitely closed a little bit, which I don't love. I mean, you know, as a drawer of the golf ball, you kind of want the golf ball to start further right. You don't really want it to start left. So for me, I don't love when it sits closed, but if this could get me the spin that I would need, then the numbers are gonna be a little bit more optimal. So that's kind of what we're looking for. and that's better. It's not super high, just over 9 launch, 2400 spin, 165 ball, 276 carry. Lost a little bit of ball speed, as to be expected when you're going up in loft, but also got a little bit more spin out of it, which is what I would need for this head. But I mean, man, it is like surprisingly low launch. 9.2, 166, 2500, 273. I'm gonna go back to 9 because I would really like to see if we can get the ball speed out of it. All right, we're back at 9 now. We'll see if we can get up to maybe 68, 69 ball. I think that would be really solid for this head. That's 67. I mean, that's where we're living around. It's 9 launch, 2200, 275. I mean, in terms of speed, it's solid. In terms of the design itself, I mean, it's very low launch, low spin. If you were to compare this to the Qi10 lineup, it's basically, to me, a blend of the Max and Standard in terms of looks and ball speed, but in a lower launching, lower spinning package. But let's go ahead and move up into the Tour 1 model. This is the one I'm pretty excited about. And I'm glad I went with a little bit more loft in this head because boy, oh boy, that would have been rough with this thing at 9 degrees. But taking a look down at this, yeah, I mean, to me, it's a much better shape. And it's funny, when you look down at a shape like this, that to me is just a lot simpler, a little bit deeper, a little bit more pear-shaped, just cleaner. I don't mind the graphics as much because the shape itself just fits my eye. So it's interesting to me. I mean, at least in comparison to that, this almost looks like a 440 head just because it's a much smaller, kind of deeper looking shape, if that makes sense. Yeah, definitely a little bit more fade biased. 9 launch, 2600, 166, 278. I kind of missed that low on the face. That was good. Higher, tighter draw, 168, 10-4, 2360 spin, 287 carry. Yeah, that's really good right there. I think that is our longest carry of the day. Yeah, and you know what? That one was kind of towed. And although I pulled it a little bit, it didn't really drop off in terms of kind of diving out of the sky. Really solid ball speed there. 169, 2300 spin, 285 carry, 9 launch. Yeah, it's pretty clear that this head definitely fits me a little bit better. And, you know, I like the shaping of it. I like the look of it better. I do like the feel of it a little bit more. I actually thought the standard model felt relatively hot. To me, this one feels even hotter, as you would expect. CG's a little bit more forward, but numbers are better right off the bat. I mean, it's still pretty low launch, but the spin's up, which is helpful for me. Yeah, and I slipped, again, towed it, and it's just not diving. I mean, they do seem pretty consistent in terms of that, like, high toe spot. That one, to me, felt really towed and missed. Still only dropped to 67 ball, 10-8 launch, 2250 spin, 287 carry. So I'd really like to see if I get to 170 with this. Kind of low-faced it. But I mean, the numbers are damn good. 169, 287, 95, 2500. Really interesting to me that this is spinning more than their standard model. I mean, obviously loft is playing a role, but the design itself would make me think it would still stay in a little bit of a lower spin realm. To me, this is easily, I don't know, 300 to 400 RPMs higher spin. And like I said, obviously loft's playing a role in that for sure, but it's not wildly low spin, which tends to be an issue for me with the LS heads. So I love to see that. I mean, but it's definitely a low launch. I mean, 8.5, 2200, 169, 280 carry. Speed is there for sure. I mean, without a doubt. I know I can get 170 out of this. Gotta be close, right? 168, 10, 2300, 287. I'm really liking this Tour 1 driver. I feel like I can really go after this and I'm not gonna lose it left. And even when I miss one, it's just not getting super low spin. It's like super solid. Easily right now, in my opinion, probably the best PXG drivers they've ever made. But man, these things launch so effing low. 8.2, 168, 2500, 280 carry. Just for fun, let's go back to the standard Qi10 and just kind of check the numbers because this is really interesting. Pulled that, but launches up. Now that's 10, 2800, definitely higher spinning. Only 167 ball, but that was a pretty big miss. 277 carry. That one's going to be a little bit lower spin. 10-1, 2450. That was quick ball speed. 171, 286 carry. I mean, no doubt the Qi10 is quick. That's about 2 miles an hour quicker than I've seen with the Black Ops. But you do have to remember that that's at 9. This is at 10.5. So it should be a little bit quicker ball speed wise. As much as design plays a role in ball speed, so does loft. So I mean, that is so much lower launch, even for a 10.5 head. But that was 170 ball, 9.3, 2450 spin, 285 carry. I mean, it's solid. There's no doubt about it. Right, guys, so there it is. That's our testing of the PXG Black Ops drivers. We'll kind of go over my final conclusions, starting with the standard model. In terms of looks with this model, I like the overall design of it. I think that's something PXG does really well, is they keep the colors simple, black, silver, gray. Looks really clean from that perspective. The one thing I don't love about this driver is the shape of it. To me, it's a little bit too elongated. And additionally, I do think the crown is a bit busy for my liking. But aside from that, I do think it looks pretty sleek, clean, fast. And so from that perspective, I like the look. In terms of feel with this driver, honestly pretty surprising. Normally with a driver where the CG's pushed a little bit further back, it doesn't feel that hot. This one, on the other hand, feels phenomenal. I mean, it feels like it's coming off with a lot of ball speed, which is really nice to see, especially in a driver. In terms of forgiveness with this driver, honestly pretty forgiving. You know, I think a lot of people look at forgiveness as how bad is the right and left dispersion? Are you missing lots of fairways? For me personally, I'm really looking at consistency across the face, because at the end of the day, that's how you hit more fairways, especially with me, somebody who misses it in that predominantly high toe spot. I like to see that a driver retains spin in that position, so I'm not overhooking it, kind of hitting those divers that end up a little bit too far left. And with this driver, I saw fantastic spin consistency, wasn't dropping below 2,000, which for me is exactly what I like to see in a driver. Now, in terms of ball speed with the standard Black Ops, definitely not going to be the fastest driver on the market by any means, but I think understanding where this driver sits in the lineup, really trying to be a head that's either super forgiving or kind of sits in that middle ground, I think that the ball speed is exactly where I would expect it to be. Like I said, not super fast, but at the same time, I don't find this driver to be slow by any means. I just think it's really going to depend what you're testing it up against. Now, aside from all those other things I mentioned, the really interesting thing about this head is just simply how low launching and spinning that it is. It's really not what I expected. I thought that this would easily be a little bit higher launching and spinning than my Qi10, but I found the complete opposite. Probably 200 to 300 RPMs lower spin and about maybe at least a degree lower launching. So really interesting from that perspective. If I was going to game this driver, I myself would definitely have to loft up to probably 10, 10.5 to get the numbers in the window that I want them to be in. All right, getting up into the Tour 1 driver now, we'll start with looks. I love the look of this thing. I think it's a lot better in terms of shaping, a little bit deeper, shorter front to back, just fits my eye a lot better. And because of that, and like I mentioned earlier, I do not mind the graphics nearly as much. In terms of feel with this driver, as good as I thought the standard model felt, this one feels even better, even hotter off the face. And for me, that's super important in a driver. I think drivers that feel really hot allow you to swing a little bit more in control, because you're not so worried about trying to get max ball speed out of it. It feels like it's coming off with a ton of ball speed. So I love drivers that feel hot, and this one really does a great job of that. In terms of forgiveness with this driver, very similar to the standard model. I love the fact that it retains spin on off-centered hits, specifically that high toe shot. I just think it's going to allow you to hit more fairways. And I think goes to show that the bulge and roll changes they made to both faces of these drivers have made a difference in terms of launch and spin consistency. And so for me, I think that's great to see. Now, in terms of ball speed with this driver, I was very, very impressed with it. I think for it to be pretty close, maybe just shy of my Qi10 with 1.5 degrees more loft, is phenomenal. This driver is plenty fast. I think it will stack up with pretty much anything else on the market. And, you know, for some reason, PXG does tend to get a little bit of an oddly bad rap in the speed department, but they shouldn't, because both of these drivers are plenty hot. Once again, though, and similarly to the standard model, I did find the Tour 1 to be pretty low launching. Now, I was able to get the spin up with this model, but also still have a ton of ball speed, which is really nice to see. But for me personally, I think I would definitely have to have this at least 10.5, potentially even an 11 or 11.5 degree to get the launch in a window that I'd be looking for my game. But as a whole, guys, both of these drivers are honestly really solid. Now, me personally, if I had to choose, I would take the Tour 1. I love the shaping, I love the feel, I love the ball speed. There's a lot to like with this head, but nonetheless, I still think the standard is a solid model. And as a whole, I really have to say that PXG has made inroads with their drivers. I haven't really always been the biggest PXG driver fan, but both of these are genuinely phenomenal. And I think if you're considering a new driver for 2024, they're definitely worth testing, because they will pretty much stack up with anything else on the marketplace, at least in my opinion. Guys, that's a review. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a like. Comment if you have any questions at all. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and you click that notification bell so you're notified anytime that we post a new video. Additionally, make sure you're following us on our other social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Always great content on those channels as well. We'll catch you in the next video. Peace.